going to put up numbers because of his ability and just how hard he plays and his gifts.
Westbrook to the rim, he scores.
His ability to get to the rim is just impressive.
Westbrook for three.
Russell Westbrook showing you those eagle eyes. He looking one way.
Taggart. Leslie off a beautiful feed by Russ. Westbrook is a rebound and an assist away from a triple-double here in the first half. Rose, the runner. No, won't fall. Thunder with the rebound. Quick pass ahead, Oladipo. On a beautiful pass by Westbrook, and that is Russell's third consecutive triple-double. He got it in 19 minutes and 40 seconds.
That's ridiculous.
That's sick. It's sick.
I agree with you, partner. It just doesn't make sense. It's almost like video game numbers.
So nice. Russell Westbrook had another triple-double last night in a 112-103 win at Madison Square Garden. With his league-leading 8th triple-double of the season on Monday night, Westbrook is now averaging 1 for the season, 30.9 points, 10.3 rebounds, and 11.3 assists per game through 19 games. The only other person to average a triple-double this late in the season is one Oscar Robertson, who last did it in 63-64. Russell joining Magic Johnson and Robertson as the only players in NBA history to average a triple-double more than 5 games into a season. Robertson, yeah, he did it 3 times. Stephen A., how far can he take his team?
Second round of the playoffs, Western Conference. It's not his fault. This is a team that's the number 3 ranked offense in the NBA. This is a team that's number 1 in rebounding, number 3 overall in offensive rebounds, which means they get opportunities. And the last thing you need to do is give Russell Westbrook more opportunities. I was at the Garden last night, Max. I went to the game. Russell Westbrook is a superstar. This dude is electrifying in every way. And he is the greatest assassin in the game today. He is the most ruthless competitor that exists in the NBA. He will cut your neck to beat you. He will come all out 100 miles an hour all the time. He gives new meaning to the word aggression. He is just a bigger, more athletic version of Allen Iverson. I mean, this is that kind of dude. Unfortunately, the pieces around him are good enough to get to the postseason, but I don't think they're good enough to win the West. I think, obviously, the Golden State Warriors are standing in your way. I think the complete team that is the San Antonio Spurs, you have to give them the edge. I think the Clippers, to a lesser degree, you have to give them the edge, even though they're on a 2-game losing streak. The way that Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, particularly if Blake Griffin shows up, I think these are things that you can't ignore. Ultimately, Max, it just comes down to this. Oklahoma City is a good team. Billy Donovan can coach. Russell Westbrook is a superstar. Oladipo is no scrub. He can play. But you lost one of the top 3 players on the planet in Kevin Durant. You don't replace that with an Oladipo and think that you're going to be on the same level.
You also traded Ibaka.
That's right.
And by the way, can you... Look,
to Orlando.
Here's the answer to the question. They can maybe win a playoff series if they finish with a good enough record. If they're in the top 4 and they play one of the bottom 4 teams, if they're in the bottom 4 and they have to play one of the top 4 teams, it better be the 4th team if that's the Rockets or something like that, right?
They would be the 4th. They would
otherwise, they won't even win a playoff series.
Right.
And Westbrook is my favorite player. The way I describe him is, if Kobe Bryant and Allen Iverson had a baby, you get Russell Westbrook. But players like that, Iverson, Kobe, Westbrook, are usually idolized out of proportion by fans, including me. Westbrook is my favorite because he's unbridled aggression. He wants it so bad, but I think he wants it too bad. And I think if he controlled some of that aggression a little more and didn't try to do too much, didn't try to carry too much of the burden of the team, he would be a better player. Of course, he would then not be my favorite player, probably. I mean, the reason I like him is because there's no brakes on him. But if he applied the brakes a little bit at times, and if he thought more, I think, of his teammates, then I think he would go farther. And I think the proof in the pudding is, I know it wasn't the same coach, and Brooks not as good a playoff coach, I would think, as Donovan. And I think you saw that in last year's playoffs. They made strides. But
it's not a knock against Brooks. It's just that Donovan's a really good coach.
And I know they were very young, but you're the point guard. You had Durant and Ibaka and Harden and other interesting pieces, and you couldn't get it done with them for years, even without Harden, and you brought in other guys, and you still couldn't get it done with them. And let's be honest, frequently it was because in the fourth quarter, Westbrook tried to do a little too much. It's the reason I love him, and it's also the reason I don't think they can win more than one playoff series.
Well, you and I agree in terms of the one playoff series because I got them going to the semifinals at best.
Right.
Having said all of that, here's where I think your analogy is unfair to Russell Westbrook. All of those points you made were valid until last year. They had the Warriors up 3-0. They were up 3-1.
What happened?
Kevin Durant didn't show up in Game 6.
Neither did Westbrook.
I know
at the
that.
end.
Wait a minute. Here's the deal. Russell Westbrook, and this is just a philosophical difference between you and I. My definition of choking and not getting it done is when you do what you normally do until times get tight. Mm-hmm. And I got this saying, times get tight, palms get sweaty, backsides get tight. You understand what I'm saying? And certain cats just can't show up. I certainly don't think that's Kevin Durant, period. I'm just talking about that particular game. He was taking shots. Charles Barkley's analysis during that first half of Game 6 was spot on. Kevin Durant was taking ill-advised shots. He was jacking up shots he never did. Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith and the crew were literally like, yo, who the hell is this guy? We don't see that Kevin Durant. We've never seen him
about
before.
Westbrook then.
So, but Westbrook is just, he's perpetually that way.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm saying.
But you can offset that. I'm saying in that particular game.
If he pulled it back a little bit.
I'm saying in that particular game, this is my point. You're right. But in that particular Game 6, they had him. They had that series. That's not on Westbrook.
Well,
that was a series.
Play well in the fourth quarter.
No, he did not. No, he didn't. Yeah, but that was but still in all, there were times when he hadn't played it well in the fourth quarter on many occasions.
But that was the time to put the foot on the throat.
But Kevin Durant was always there to offset it, and he picked that particular game where he did not. We can't ignore that.
Right.
We can't ignore that.
Durant now, so they used to have two elite top 5 players, and in fact, when Durant was coming back from injury, it was unclear who was better between Durant and Westbrook at a certain point.
Yes, sir. I always knew Durant's better.
You had seen fully the kind of player he could be in Durant's absence. But that player, full throttle, triple-double Westbrook, is probably not actually the best thing for the Thunder. I agree with you. Oladipo's good. But he's shooting like 40 from 3, and so I understand they may have a problem. He may not do that all season. It's really good. He may not do that all season. Maybe they don't have enough shooting and everything. I feel as though, and I've always felt this way about Westbrook, the thing that makes me love him, the unbridled aggression, is probably also the thing that's holding him back from being an even better player. Not in the counting numbers, but in the results of the game.
Yeah, but if you had trouble completely relinquishing to Kevin Durant, you damn sure it's recognized. It's easy to recognize that you damn sure ain't gonna do it for Oladipo or Steven Adams or Enes Kanter, who showed up last night. So we understand that, and the reason why I bring that up, Max, is because I harken back to my years of covering Allen Iverson. Larry Brown and these dudes knew what they had. And they said, look, we got to surround him with dudes who are satisfied doing everything else because this dude is going to shoot the basketball. So if you know this about Russell Westbrook, what are you putting around him? And when I look at Kevin Durant, again, you work with him. Kevin Durant is phenomenal, and we see what he's doing in Golden State. I told you he's one of the top 2 players in the world. But that Game 6, you had an opportunity to close it.
I want to go back to that sentiment.
You had that
I want to
moment.
go back to that sentiment. So then what you're saying is, I believe, and I'll tell you why in a second, Westbrook can't win a championship. And I will tell you why. Because if you're saying you know what you got in Westbrook, so it depends what you put around him. Either you put other players who are so inferior to what you need to win that you can't win a championship, or if you put plenty around him, like Kevin Durant and others, there'll be a clash in terms of that stuff in the moment of truth, and they still can't win a championship.
But you're looking at it from this perspective about Russell Westbrook. I'm looking at the opposition. You can't win a championship with Russell Westbrook because Golden State is standing in the way, because of Cleveland is standing in the way, just like Kobe and Shaq were standing in the way of AI. But don't tell me that. But don't tell me. I understand that. But I'm saying I don't believe that Russell Westbrook's the reason they lost last year. Let me be very, very clear. I don't believe that.
Because I don't believe that. Because he tried to do too much in the fourth quarter, and since he always tries to do too much, that abdicates responsibility.
Because I saw Kevin Durant have the opportunity to close the deal, and he did it.
Neither did Westbrook.
Well, listen. What I'm saying to you is this. You're the penultimate dude. You're the supplementary piece. As great as Russell Westbrook is, he's the supplementary
stop
piece.
Right there. Wait,
Kevin Durant
that's what I'm
is not.
talking about. Westbrook can never be the supplementary piece because that's not his personality.
I'm telling you,
that's why it didn't work.
I'm telling you in that
and then
series.
The question is he good enough to be the best player on a
series,
championship
again,
team?
if you're giving me the 8-9 years Russell Westbrook's been in the league, we both acknowledge that on numerous occasions. I am telling you for that particular series, go back and watch each and every single game. That was Kevin Durant's series to take, and he did not do it. This is a fact. It cannot be disputed. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says.
This is my favorite player to watch that I'm talking about, and there's a lot of excuses why no matter what, you can't win a championship.
I'm just saying you're right. Except for that series in the Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors, which Kevin Durant has to go to now.
All right.
You got to handle that.
Gentlemen.
You know that.
Let's leave it there. Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers became the first quarterback to throw for 300 yards against the Eagles. And the Packers snapped a 4-game losing streak, defeating Philly 27-13. Stephen A., from what you saw last night, is your boy back?
Back. No, he's not back. You know why? Because where the hell did he go? I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out. All of this stuff about where did he go? Listen. Couple of bad games, suspect games, or what have you. I kept trying to tell y'all, mere bag of shells, no big deal. Why am I saying that? Because it really wasn't about Aaron Rodgers. It was about Jordy Nelson, who hasn't been the same since his injury. It's about Randall Cobb, your slot receiver, even though he's good. We also understand he could be better. About Devontae Adams coming on strong and reminding everybody of what his capability is. It's about Eddie Lacy, who was fat last year, got himself back into shape, but then last year, not this year, but got himself back into shape, but then got injured this year and what have you, not having a running back. It's about that porous defense, absolutely atrocious secondary due to Sam Shields primarily being injured. But having said all of that, let's pump the brakes just a touch here, just a touch. Because as I looked at the Eagles last night, I just want to say my condolences goes out to Jeffrey Lurie, the owner. I mean, he had a rough couple of years. Last year, he had to deal with the whole Chip Kelly thing. Right. This year, it's a bevy of injuries, and you got a rookie coach. You know, Peterson, you're challenging a call on a 2-yard pass. What the hell are you thinking? Talk about being a rookie coach. That's a problem. Aguilar, he was inactive. I wrote down the list here, Max, because there's a whole bunch of guys that were either injured, they were ill, or they were just inapt. I was reading for the Philadelphia Inquirer, New York Daily News. Philadelphia Inquirer, my former paper where I worked 17 years.
Aren't we about to ask what's the problem in Philly? You want to do that now?
I'm not going to do that now. I'm not going to do that now. I'll touch on that a little bit later. Good point. All I'm trying to say to you is this. Considering the injuries, the illnesses, and everything else, we can't really say that Aaron Rodgers, oh my Lord, what a performance. What I'm saying is 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions on the season, completing 64% of his passes. Excuse me, this is what's considered bad when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. Let's just put that in perspective. Aaron Rodgers reminded people like you. Yeah, okay, I'm just messing with you because I know how you are about Tom Brady. I kind of confused your thoughts about Brady and Aaron Rodgers. But I just want to get on you a little bit. I want to make it up. I want to make it up that you got a problem with Aaron Rodgers because you seem to have a problem. You got a problem with Breeze. You got a problem with Brady. I'm just assuming he's going to find a problem with Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron's a little younger.
You need to change your name to Stephen H. Smith.
H?
Hypocrite. Because a couple weeks ago, a week or two ago, we were asked about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Is he elite? And I sat here and said, look, you got the 6th best QBR in the league. Every quarterback with a QBR over Aaron Rodgers was an MVP candidate. So had he slipped from where he was? Yeah, a little bit. But he was still elite. And I recall you arguing with me about that. Now,
saying he wasn't elite? No, that's ridiculous.
He is now.
That's ridiculous.
He is now as the 4th best QBR in the league. But let's leave numbers alone, or else you're going to accuse me of not using the eyeball test.
That's right. And we all know. Look at those eyeballs. Look at those eyeballs, John. He has to use those eyeballs.
That's how I look at the game, Max. Eyeballs.
Here's the eyeball
test. You see those eyeballs on him? He's got to use them.
When you looked at Aaron Rodgers in the last year and a half, did that look like the Aaron Rodgers? No. It looked like at times a good quarterback, at times a quarterback who's not quite great. Had a couple of bad games mixed in there. Not Aaron Rodgers. Was that Aaron Rodgers last night? Yes, it was. Talk about Devontae Adams. How about that? I think it was second quarter, right? The touchdown throw. Listen, that pass was so beautifully thrown.
Unbelievable.
How many quarterbacks can make that throw?
Right.
He does that when he's going well. That's not a fluke. It's done intentionally. It's done consistently. 300 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and the eyeball test says that dude is back.
Listen, He was never a gone. I understand that team has struggled, but being back means that you went somewhere. This was not all placed at Aaron Rodgers.
Just taking his side.
Right? The quarterback always gets too much credit for wins, too much blame for losses. They have zero running game. It is difficult in the NFL when Montgomery is your leading carrier and you're leading back. I understand he's big, he's all those things. He's not a running back. That's not what he does each and every down, right? He's been working on receiver. He's got all these kind of things. Starks was hurt. Lacey's hurt. Offensive line's banged up. They sitting off to Chicago. A lot of changes, a lot of moving parts. Lindsley was hurt. All the guys coming back. There was a lot of moving parts. The last 4 weeks before this, they'd given up 30 points twice, 40 points twice. That's not on Aaron Rodgers' side of the ball. That's a difficult thing to overcome. You pointed out, it's a great point. Jordy Nelson has struggled taking the top off of defenses, which we've expected. He's coming back from his injuries.
He'll be better next year.
He will definitely be better. He'll be better as this season progresses on. Cobby was struggling some, getting open inside, all the things that we talked about from him being a slot receiver. Adams, last night, I mean, he stepped. Listen, the ball was unbelievable. The catch was nasty. I mean, he is draped. For that thing to hit you and it was almost like you couldn't miss it. I mean, it was a thing of beauty that it happened, but you saw their defense. And I do agree, this is a beat-up Eagles team. I don't think you can make, grandiose statements about the Packers where we are right now. But I will say, as far as Rodgers, he always plays with a chip on his shoulder. He never felt accepted, never felt loved, whatever you want to talk about. But at the end of the day, that edge, that kind of defiant attitude when he said, listen, we're going to go win 6 straight, whatever it is, his team is now beginning to rally. It will be interesting to see when he plays talent, a strong team, Seahawks, he'll have the Lions the last game of the season, what it looks like then.
Road, yeah.
But when he had to do it last night, he did it.
Couple of things. First of all, when we brought up Aaron Rodgers a couple of weeks ago, I have my own standards, not the mere mortals. I have my own standards. I'm Steven.
I don't like that. Excuse me. Why do you look at us as mere mortals?
I never said that.
32 of 32 would take
That's
care.
right.
All right,
There's no question.
You just said,
but your argument today is he never left.
He never left. But again, to me, that's according to your standards. I have my own. But we'll revisit that. Here's the deal. I wanted you to be in on this segment because you played with the Packers.
Yeah.
And one of the things we've talked about over the last couple of weeks was some of the stories emanating out of the Packers.
Yeah.
Defensively, Mike McCarthy, Ted Thompson was even thrown into the mix to the point where Murphy had to come out, the president had to come out and say, no changes are being made. We're disappointed, but no changes are being made. I want to know what you've made of all the talk about the Packers and their troubles in recent weeks prior to last night's game. What was your attitude going into last night's game?
Yeah, I think when you looked at them from an offensive perspective, when I would talk about them the last few weeks, they have no rhythm. Right? Like offenses are built on rhythm. 3-step, let the ball go, right? Receiver's going to get open. It seemed like everything was going back to backyard football. We're going to try to extend plays, which I know they practice because I did it, right? They have drills out there where the horn blows, and they want you to extend the play another 2 or 3 seconds. The issue with that is when teams back off and make you take check downs and make you throw the ball down and make you run it to earn it, they couldn't answer that call. So when you're playing out of rhythm, it makes Aaron Rodgers look mortal, to your point, because to put that ball in when defensive backs are breaking on the ball instead of playing backwards and backing up, it's difficult to do. You don't have the run.
I have a question about that. Look, football is not the kind of game where you can, over the long haul, impose your physical gifts one player and consistently decide the outcome of games. I get that. But every now and then a guy comes along. Michael Vick at his best in that first breakout season, RG3 in his rookie season, Cam, Aaron Rodgers over the course, I think, of a couple seasons.
Right.
And there are some others, maybe including Andrew Luck in maybe his second or third season, where I felt like a player is just deciding, quarterback usually, to take over the game and compensate for the weaknesses in other places. Aaron Rodgers yesterday looked like that guy to me. Even the 4.3 yards per carry on the ground through the air, it was like he decided, I'm not going to let anything happen here.
But here's what he did. He took what they gave him. They're playing man coverage behind it or 2-man behind it.
And so he was on one leg. Are we forgetting that?
Yeah, the hammy gets tugged on. But he didn't try to force the ball. He was smart about what he was trying to do, especially early in the game. He wasn't trying to force it. He didn't play frustrated. And that's what I was going to get to you saw him play frustrated. And no team can do that. And then your defense is giving up a bunch of points. everything kind of gets lumped in. And your play, I'd never heard anybody bash Ted Thompson. I mean, everybody was getting thrown under the bus in Green Bay. And that's what happens when expectations are as high as they are on a football team. When you got guys in the locker room, here's what I would always say to a veteran guy. If you got an issue with the way we're playing, come in-house and let's talk about it. The last place I want to hear about it is from the press when I walk back in on Monday morning or if I have a conference after you that night. I don't want to hear what you said and have to explain it. Everybody in their locker room started doing some of that. And you can't, at the end of the day, you got to get in-house and say, we're not accomplishing what we're supposed to be doing. Everybody's got a role. Everybody's got accountability and ownership. They got to take it up. But when you start going, hey, we don't got the energy. We don't have the effort. Like,
I want to take it back to Rodgers for a second.
Because it will divide a locker room.
I want to take it back to Rodgers on the field for a second. What you're talking about, taking what the defense gives them, that's what, like, Tom Brady does better than anyone ever. That's what Dak is doing this year. Those are those mistake-proof kind of quarterbacks.
Sure.
I felt like Rodgers at his best was the best version of that in the sense that he had all the physical gifts to run and throw, and in addition to that, he made good decisions while still being aggressive, getting the ball into tight windows. That's the guy I saw that guy again yesterday.
Yeah, but the defense they're playing is when you're talking about him in his prime, he had a good running game. They could establish the run. They could go make those plays. Right now, he is playing, behind the 8 ball. I mean, when you don't have a running game, you can't be as challenging as you're talking about because there's no recovery. You can't eat clock. You're going to have to throw the ball. You got to throw it short. He's getting pressure because he has to extend plays. He's going to take a shot. All of those things. When he's aggressive, he is definitely at his best. But it requires the other 5 skill guys to be in that same mindset. That's where your issue has been is Adams just started showing up. I mean, everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon. Yeah, he's just started to show up, right? Cobb last year had issues. This year, it had a hard time getting the ball. Jordy, they expected him to just hit the ground running. We all know receivers, ACLs, it is tough to come back from that. Man, to get out of your break, to get over the top, all those things. And now think about it from a defense perspective. You're going to play it like that. I mean, you're going to be willing to take more chances, challenge those receivers, jam on the line, try to throw off the timing, and then you see Rodgers back there patting it. It doesn't matter how strong your arm is, doesn't matter how any of that stuff is. You got to be aggressive, but you also got to understand what you're playing with from a defensive perspective. And listen, I'm going to tell you right now, the Packers early in the season, had I thought their defense was going to play that good, I'd have said this team is a 13-win team. But now their defense has kind of come back to where I probably expect. They played good last night, but the weeks before, it's a struggle, right? I mean, that's where it is.
So things are looking positive. We saw the vintage bad man last night in Philly, but will Rodgers and the Packers run the table as predicted in their last 5 games? Go on Twitter now and vote. We'll share those results a little later in the show.